Live.
We are live. Welcome, guys, to bi-weekly. It's the right word, isn't it? Bi-weekly. Bi-weekly show with myself and David Rahman talking about things that are going to help you. I've got the Mind Coach Master with me, going to help you if you are in business, if you're a budding entrepreneur. And do you know what? More generally, just helps with life, doesn't it, mate? I'll say that's a good, good analogy.
Yeah.
So how's the last couple of weeks been for you, buddy?
Good, thanks. Good. It's working and looking forward to seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, and I think it's coming soon.
It's on its way. It's on its way. Are you scheduled for a jab?
Not yet. Hopefully the next month or so. I'm happy to give you a call and to come in and yeah. So, yeah, all these people are getting this jab. It's good to see. It's good to see it's happening so quickly now. It just seems to be gathering momentum.
It does. Yeah, I think the reason I asked is that, certain people, and I wonder whether you might be one of them who perhaps work with, vulnerable people, or, they might be doing some sort of care work or whatever. My wife, for example, she's already had the jab.
Right.
Even though, she's not necessarily vulnerable herself, she works with lots of people who are vulnerable. And so she's got the jab. So I'm kind of, I'm sort of, in the queue now. I just want to get the quicker we can all get jabbed, the quicker we'll all be out and about again, won't we? That's the way I see it.
Yeah, it'll happen soon. I'm really optimistic. Here in Wales, they said they're going to readdress it in is it 3 weeks time?
Yeah.
So they're going to look at opening schools, hopefully, and opening something in about 3 weeks time. So that's just on the latest headlines, the latest bulletin. So with First Minister, so that's good. We're going somewhere.
We are, and of course, as we broadcast this, obviously we're broadcasting live at the moment. Some people will be watching this on the rerun. We're in a lockdown here in the UK, and we are pretty much confined to quarters, as it were, and as a result of that, we are much more easily distracted. There's the potential. You might have kids running around the house. You might be trying to work, with other things going on. And you know what? Distractions that might not necessarily be right in your face, but things like how easy is it just to turn the TV on? How easy is it to start reading a book? I keep getting sucked into this bad boy. It's really distracting me, David. And so the subject of today's chat really is to talk about getting that laser focus. How can we attain that laser focus, and how can we stop procrastination and just stopping those distractions? And I'm guessing, David, there's it's more difficult than usual for us right now.
I was going to say, sorry, I've been distracted, but that's...
Pay attention. Have some focus, mate.
Yeah. Yes, at this time, and at any time, really, we always look at, it's a constant, isn't it, distraction. And we have so much coming into our lives, so much information that, where do we start? What do you find your personal challenges in I'm really interested in what people are distracted by, in terms of there lies the answer.
Well, I'll tell you what, I count myself really lucky because I've got my little room here where, I can keep myself to myself. And I'm very, very grateful for that because the people that I have a lot of empathy for are the ones that have got younger kids than I've got as well, who are having to homeschool, who are trying to work as well, and they're trying to keep their kids. And I think that the one, we've got a network of partners at Blam that are in all parts of the world, in all different, scenarios. And quite often we hear the feedback that it's very difficult to stay focused when you've got kids running around and, you need to do your work. So that's the one thing that I think is a challenge. It is a challenge. But for myself, you know, my distraction, I've got to say, I tend to stay focused on what I keep. My diary is my absolute, you know, it keeps me on track. My diary is my boss. And so, you know, today I really haven't had time to be distracted because my diary has kept me accountable, one thing after another. And that's the way I manage it. Because if I didn't have that, I know distraction for me would be email, social media, you know, potentially family coming in and out. So that's why I stay strict.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned it. That you've got a space which you operate from. So you have you have your room, and then you know you're in that zone. So I think if people are out there, back to the kids thing, it's all about time management then, really. Because if you've got two parents with kids, then what I'm hearing is what seems to work. Because I don't have young kids, but from what people are telling me is that they have to take in terms of time sharing. 24 hours a day. Well, when can you time share? And also just retaining that respect for each other. That you know you're with someone and you've got to respect that they've got a job. If both of you are working, then you're going to have to timeshare, more effective timeshare, and do it in blocks. And studies have shown that 90-minute increments, 75 to 90-minute increments, are very, very good for the brain working at full power. So we tend to get distracted anyway. After about 20 minutes, the human brain, after about 20 minutes, that's why 10 talks are less than 20 minutes long, because of that focus and concentration. So what is it, 10 talks, 17 minutes long, something like that?
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so expect every 20 minutes yourself to be slightly distracted, or 3 times an hour you're going to be distracted. So it really depends, and you hit the nail on the head with there. You've got this diary, which is a series of commitments between yourself, and when we commit to something, a portion of our time, then what you've got to decide then is, why are you doing it? And what I want to start off with is people in business to look at this as, why am I working on this project, or what's my why in terms of what do I need to what do I want to achieve this morning, and why do I want to achieve it? So if it's something that you've got this calls to make and you keep procrastinating, or you keep putting them off, or getting distracted. So how long is it going to take these calls? So if it's going to take an hour, then you have to then schedule the hour in. And as Peter Drucker, the management guru, leadership coach, has said in the past, what gets scheduled gets done. So I always find that when we schedule something, it gets done. But the problem with a lot of people is they schedule it somewhere where they don't really refer to it. So if you're going to schedule it somewhere where you can see it. So maybe on your online diary, if it's there running away in the background, or in your physical book. So if you had a physical diary that you could refer to and then keep to it, because what you're doing is you're making a commitment as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, or in a profession. You're making a commitment during this time to do the work. We break the commitment with ourselves when we dive onto social media and then start scrolling, and we become distracted. And that's a disservice to us and our business, because the business is an energetic entity. The better you feel, the more you deliver to the business. So then you're the energetic entity. You're delivering to your business. So I'm going to ask people in terms of, where do you make the accountability part for you? So do you have a diary? Do you run that in the background, or is it on your phone? My diary is on my phone, and it's also it would synced up to the laptop and the iPad. Then I'll also have, for example, on a paper this size, I also write down exactly what I'm going to do that day. Ron, if you could come back on for a second. Do you have a to-do list, or do you have a must-do list for that day when you come on?
It's interesting that we're talking about this, because I did a presentation. I've done 2 presentations this week on exactly that subject, on
Okay.
to-do lists. And I kind of talk about 2 different methods. One's called the Ivy Lee method, which is where you take the 6 most important things each day and you put them in order of priority, and get those done. And the second one's the time management matrix, which I find really, really useful. And I was saying on the thing that I did, I find, certainly, I don't know whether it's lockdown or the way that I'm organizing my business now, I'm using that time management matrix more and more, because I think, like a lot of people, my to-do list is so big, it can be a bit overwhelming. And you need to find ways of prioritizing it, because if you've got 30 things on your to-do list, that can lead to, what do they call it? Paralysis, and
analysis. Yeah. And I was just going to show you a list I made for yesterday. Don't have it on me. And you get a list, and really, for people to understand that your brain works well also at different times of the day. So I'm a better worker in the morning. Anytime before 3 o'clock. What time is it now? 1:45. That's fine. So between before 2 or 3 o'clock. After between 2 and 4, I'm not very productive.
We've got 15 minutes, guys.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking that for anybody out there, when you are working, can you identify what times of the day you work best at? So are you a lark on an owl? So if you're running a business, where do you, of course, if you've got to make calls, if you've got to contact people, that's got to be done in the daytime. But what part of the day can you do extra work, which doesn't impact on, say, your family time, and doesn't impact on your rest time? Identify that and put that into action. So I work best in the mornings, as I said, but I also have this time between about 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock. So between 5 and 7, again, suddenly the second wind workout. I can start working again at that time. So I can do something which is menial, like accounts or admin at that time. So whatever you think about, when it comes to stuff which is like that, menial or accounts, do it at a time which is out of the, what can I say, showtime, which is when you don't have to connect with people. So I put it between 5 and 7. So I seal myself in a room and I'm there doing the stuff. It might be answering emails, which do not need to be answered with, because remember one thing, that when you see an email, or if you keep checking your emails, you can get lost in the flow of an email. And then suddenly you're answering emails which don't need to be answered today. So again, when you have this I call it the must-do list. So you have a list of things to do, and I take, just as Grant, between 3, 5, 6 things which must be done today. And these are priority things. So pick 5 or 6 and then do them, make them your goal. Anything else is a bonus. Now, what you can do is have a look at some emails, and you don't necessarily have to answer them right now, or even today. They don't have to be answered, but I tend to answer them by the end of the day. So again, you can stop yourself from being distracted by jumping in an email, and suddenly you've got this thread on an email. And there's nothing worse than looking at a thread in an email to say, where's that email they sent me? Because it's continually evolving. And here's a tip that you can use for emails. For example, if I was going to send Grant an email and I needed to talk about different things, I might send Grant a couple of different emails. So one might be around an event like this, and then I might send Grant an email with something totally different. so that they don't get mixed up, so that we've got specific subjects, because a lot of people waste time actually searching for where do they say that. So if you've got an email, say on for example, marketing, keep that on marketing. If you've got an email on creativity, you're doing a project together, keep the email on that, so you know where the thread is. Otherwise, if it's all mixed up, number one, you're wasting time looking for where in that email did they say that, and number two, your energy is becoming depleted. You're getting slightly frustrated because you can't find what you want to find. So that's like an organizational way of looking at emails. Send an email on a particular subject, and that immediately gets you out of one long email containing 29 different emails and responses from that person. Is that something that you do yourself, Grant?
Yeah, it's interesting. You got me thinking about that, because it's almost like that there should be a standard for email etiquette, really. Because, you know, we went to school, we all, you know, learned how to compose letters, and, you know, there was an etiquette towards how we do it, you know, yours sincerely, yours faithfully, and all that kind of stuff. With emails, there tends to be such a broad spectrum of etiquette. Some people will write an email like it's a text message. Some people will write an email like it's a full-on, you know, legal letter, and everything in between. My personal sort of preference to this is an email somewhere in between a formal letter and a text. In other words, it needs to be efficient, because we get so many of them, but it's absolutely imperative, in my view, the subject line is the key. Because if we're going to be doing a search, the subject must contain what the content is. Because we've all been there, spending ages. I mean, I must do it most days, trying to find an email that was of from a particular person, and not really knowing what to search for to find it, because the subject wasn't articulate about what the subject was. I feel there should be, you know, an etiquette that we all follow for that, to make all of our lives so much easier.
Yeah, that's exactly as Grant said. It's, you know, once you've got that subject line correct, this is why I tend to search in. When you do these separate emails, put the subject line in, because when you type it in the search box, you can find that person's email that much quicker. Otherwise, you're going to become frustrated. So that's one way. And while you get frustrated, you see, looking for this email, your willpower starts to deteriorate. Your willpower starts to deteriorate, and you're more likely then to procrastinate. You're more likely to actually then start wasting time looking at other things. So what you're trying to do is streamline your life and your business. Streamline it, especially at this time, because for once, our home life and our business is in the same place, constantly in the same place. For most people think about that. So think about these segments. If you've got a project to do, if you've got some important task to do, and it's going to take you an hour, then schedule that hour and just switch off everything around it. That's a hard thing to do for a lot of people, because I have all these notifications coming in. But what I tend to do is try and switch off everything around it. There's a technique called the Pomodoro technique, which was founded in the 80s. When I think it was a social psychologist was looking at how to be more time efficient. And Pomodoro was those timers they had in the 1980s, shaped like a tomato, Pomodoro, Italian tomatoes. I think it was an Italian guy. And what he did was, when we put the timer on, and in these days, it's our phone that's got a timer. You're up against the clock. Now, what that does is creates a little bit of accountability and urgency to the task. Not emergency, urgency, which is, I've got to get this done in this fixed amount. And there is a law called Parkinsons Law, which is whatever time that we're allocated for a task. So if you give a person 5 days to do a task, a project, a report, it'll take them 5 days. Most people do it in 5 days and get it back to you on the 5th day. But if you give the same person 3 days to do the task, they would do it in 3 days. So our brain works out what we need to do, and then delivers it in that aforementioned time. So if you want to schedule something, then schedule the time and go up against the clock. Your brain works very, very fast because you've become laser focused, not only on the job, but the time in hand. When we're given a certain amount of time, we tend to take action. This is why, look back to when we were revising for exams in school, people would leave it till the last moment and they would do everything in a record amount of time to try and pass that exam. They called it cramming in my day. They crammed as much as possible, and you'd get record amounts of work done in that week preceding the exam, even though you could have done it over the preceding month, because that's all the time you've given yourself. You've said, right, I'm going to do it the week before. That's it. So that's an example of Parkinson's Law. I wanted to contribute something that our energy is being used up when we're focusing. So remember that every time you think, every time you focus, every time you concentrate, you're using metabolic energy. You're using the energy of the cells in the body. Remember, we only have a finite amount of energy per day. From the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep, we have this fuel tank. And have you noticed that people's willpower seems to deteriorate in the evening? So then they're sitting there and they're reaching for the chocolates or the crisps or the biscuits, because in the daytime it seems to be okay. At night, this willpower seems to deteriorate, and it's research has shown that your willpower does deteriorate over the day, and your energy levels are drifting. Especially if you look at people in the afternoon, their energy levels do change. So, a couple of things for that. Number one, the brain needs good fuel. It requires good fuel, and whatever you have for lunch does actually affect how you feel in the afternoon. So have you ever had a big lunch and you felt really sluggish in the afternoon? And when you're sluggish, you're more likely to slow down, and you're more likely to do less work, and more likely to be distracted when you're sluggish. So if you're piling through the biscuits lunchtime, or the cakes, or high carbs or high protein, you're likely to feel very sluggish in the afternoon, and your response time and your clarity is not going to be as good as it was pre-lunch. So I always recommend foods like light foods like salads for lunch, a very light protein salads, and think of brain foods like blueberries and the right nuts. I mean, this is all stuff that you can find online. What's good for the brain? You've got to get the right fuel in there. So if anybody's serious about operating their brain at a higher level, then do some research. And there's some good books out there on brain food and brain fuel, because it's going to help you focus more for longer. And it's much, much easier. The second thing I wanted to add to that then is during the day. I mean, we've got this culture where we think we need to go to the gym, and then we need to do it in the morning or in the evening. We need to do that. And you don't need to do anything. You just need to move. So if you're out there and you think, right, I've got a Zoom meeting at 10 o'clock, well, get the laptop and put it up and stand up and do the Zoom meeting. Stand up, because your metabolic rate rises. So you can do Zoom meeting standing up. You can do anything standing up. So it doubles. I think the metabolic rate doubles when you stand up. So think about that. Change your routine. So do things which involve you changing that. And that's what routine is all about. If you're in an autopilot, this isn't really doing much. It's just on autopilot. So think about that. Part B of that is actually you can break away at any time during your day and do something as simple as a Tabata exercise. There's an app out there, Tabata. It's only 4 minutes. It's super easy, and it gives you, I've got it on my phone here. It's basically like that, and it's 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off for 4 minutes. This is what it looks like.
Starting your Tabata workout. Get ready. Exercise.
So 20 seconds on and then 10 seconds off. So basically you're working out. You can do star jumps, sit up, press ups for 20 seconds, stop for 10 seconds, rest, carry on. And you do that for 4 minutes. That's it. What's that going to do for you? I mean, that's going to raise your energy levels. That's going to raise your endorphins. It's going to get oxygen in there. You've broke away from your routine. If you can do that, and I do that sporadically. I might do that. I might do shuttle runs in the house, which is, I'm boiling the kettle. That might take 90 seconds. So I'm running from the kitchen to the living room, the living room, until the kettle's boiled. So I've got the oxygen going, the motivation, or I might have, while the kettle's boiling, I might have, we've got Alexa in the kitchen. So I've got Alexa, play this song, play whatever. Play.
I knew that was going to happen. You put Alexa off.
Yeah, really?
I was waiting for that.
Oh, brilliant. And then you're there, and you're energizing yourself, just like now, and you feel energized. And then I get that cup of tea, in my case, coffee, and I get back, and I'm back to work. And then I'm thinking, right, I'm going to do this for half an hour, or I'm going to record these videos for this program, and I do it. So you've broken away. So what you must, guys, think about is, what are my weaknesses? Think about your weaknesses. It's not myself and Grant prescribing stuff here. It's about you finding out what's the best time, optimum time of the day for you in terms of focus and concentration. Where perhaps are you wasting time? Which is, are you waking up and doing perhaps the wrong things in reverse, the least important things instead of the most important things? And as Grant says, figure out. Your brain will scream at you. It'll start, your mind will start screaming at you, say, no, I don't want to do that. It feels uncomfortable. But fear is a part of our life. Fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough, fear of it not working out. The more you face it, the more you move towards and through it, the more you see that most of our fears, most of our worries actually never ever happen. They never ever happen. And if anyone were to look at their life now and think, what percentage of my worries actually did come true? And they'll look at them and say, well, not much, to be honest, 5-10%. And you'll realize we've all done it, where we worked ourselves up into the state. And at that point, we don't take any action. It perhaps takes us half an hour to do a task that could have been done in 10 minutes. So we wasted 20 minutes. We've wasted 60% of that half an hour. So think about, where could you be wasting time? Where are we now?
2 o'clock. We're on the hour.
Oh, no. I just wanted to finish on one thing. If you can, fun time. I've got a whole list of things, but I've just managed to get through a couple of them. Have some fun time during the day. Have a fun time. So what can you do? Can you break free and then just watch half an hour of a comedy? Can you go out and just with your partner, just go for a walk with the dog? Can you break free? Can you schedule time for life? It doesn't have to be all work and no play. And if you're a business owner and we don't have to work until 5 o'clock. You can work anytime. I work 7 days a week, so it's not a pressure. I have to work 9 to 5. If you're working for someone else, it's a different story. Hopefully those things do help in terms of bringing life back into your day, and then looking at it as more of a pleasure rather than a routine.
I think one thing you just touched on there is something probably without realizing is something I do, is I do try and change my environment in order to help me focus. So in other words, we've obviously got an office in Birmingham, and it's empty at the moment. If I do go into the office, if I'm doing if I need to use the video recording stuff, that change of environment definitely helps me focus. So taking that down to the sort of level that I can apply when I'm at home, going out for a walk is actually something that I've really valued during lockdown, and actually going out and just being in the fresh air. When I get back, my focus is definitely, back on it.
Yeah.
Just the fact, and it's a bit like what you've been saying about the shuttle runs to the kettle, and that it's just changing your, I'm sat here for hours upon hours at the moment every day, and you need to shift it, don't you, to, and like I say, I'm not using that, I'm not complaining, because I'm infinitely grateful that I'm not having to share a laptop with my wife or my children, like, some people have to, or having to start homeschooling a youngster, or trying to keep them occupied. So, but even so, that change of environment, acknowledging it, just gives you that lift, I think.
Yeah, 100%. If you go for a walk, and you can either look around and observe nature, because it's a different type of thought. It's a totally different energetic thought. Because when you're sitting down, you're back into a different energy. And life is far too short to worry about things like being productive. And it's not Nike slogan, just do it. And it is you deciding, why are you doing it? If we connect ourselves to this why, and even write it out on a post-it note, you could write it out every morning on a post-it note, slap it on the computer screen. Why am I doing it? It could be family, could be vacations, whatever. Just put it up as a reminder. This is why I'm doing it, and make every day as a new opportunity. And this is something that it gets you out of that grind. Because I know we're in a grind at this time, and it is so challenging for everyone out there. But yeah, we're looking to make the most of it.
Fantastic. And as ever, guys, don't forget David's books full of useful tips in here. I'm surrounded at the moment by all my little affirmations that are part of the book. Let it go is one of them. Does it matter? You can't change what you can't control. These are all little reminders. I've actually added a couple myself that aren't in the book. One I really love is get shit done. It's one of my favorites, and sort of speaks to me, that one. But really appreciate you spending the time again, David.
You're welcome, man.
Same time in a couple of weeks?
Yes, let's do it in a couple of weeks.
Brilliant.
Good luck to everyone out there. Keep going, keep moving forward. Let's do this.
Thanks, guys. Take care all. Bye-bye.